Most people don't know this, but I was an extremely picky kid. My mom could regale you with stories of all the foods that I wouldn't eat and how difficult I was when I was a kid. I mean, she tried. She made good food, and everyone else in my family ate the food. My brother, who's older, ate anything that she put in front of him, and she was a good cook. But for some reason when I was younger, I began to develop emotional anxiety about certain types of food, just by the looks of them. So by the time I was 10, 12, 14, 15 years old, I was largely eating like frozen pizzas and fish sticks and fast food and McDonald's and things like that, because it was all that at that time I thought that I liked. Now, you can deal with that when you're a kid, and sometimes if you're not overeating or if you have a high metabolism, you can not gain weight. But when I got into college, and you're exposed to, at the cafeteria, a lot more food and a lot of greasy food and fatty food, what happened was that I started to put on some weight. It wasn't a lot at first, but it was enough to where I began to become self-conscious about it. And after college, when the pickiness and stuff like that continued, I started to notice, I'd look at these guys who were 5 or 10 years older than me at work, and I'd see them developing their bellies. And I became more self-conscious about my weight, and I began to obsess about it a little bit. And the more I obsessed about it, what I found was that the more difficult it became. And I would think about food from the moment I woke up in the morning, and I'd be counting calories and counting fat grams and counting carbs and all the little fad things that came along I was doing. Wasn't making it any easier. In fact, it was becoming kind of infuriating that I had to think about it all the time. And there was a time in which I thought that, oh my God, am I going to have to think about food like this for the rest of my life? Now, what's interesting is that my behaviors, my pickiness started to change a little bit before I was hypnotized the first time. I just started to get really bored with how limited my diet was. And so I started to try little things. I mean, I wouldn't even eat spaghetti. I wouldn't even eat rice. I mean, there were so many fundamental things that I just didn't eat. I began to try them. And I found that I liked some of these things that I thought I wouldn't. And then when I became hypnotized for the first time, although I never spent one session working on weight or food or anything, just by clearing my head and beginning to think more logically about things rather than emotionally, I started to make better choices about things. I started to eat a little bit healthier, and over the course of the next 10 years, I kept trying more and more foods and finding more things that were healthy that I liked. And as a result of simply eating when I was full and stopping when I was eating when I was hungry and stopping when I was full, what happened was that I learned how to maintain my weight without a lot of effort. So what's interesting is that when people see me, because I'm at a healthy weight, they tend to naturally assume that I can just eat whatever I want and that I just never gain weight, or that I'm blessed with a high metabolism. In fact, I was out with a friend one time, and we were at a bar and we were having some wings, which I do on occasion, and he said, well, Sean, that's okay because you don't have to worry about your weight. And that caught my attention. I said, is that what you think? And what he didn't see was what I do 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, what I have for breakfast, what I have for lunch, what I do for dinner on a Tuesday night, And during those moments when no one else is looking, I'm eating responsibly. And even when I'm out eating the food that's not the right thing, I'm still eating responsibly. When I'm full, I stop. And if you're doing things the right way over time and you're recognizing what your body needs, then you can maintain without putting a lot of effort and a lot of concentration and focus into it. So, there were these hypnotists in the 1980s who developed a really great strategy that they taught to people who were struggling with weight. Now, what they did was they put out an ad in the paper, and they were looking for people who had never had a weight problem. And they wanted to interview them. Good idea, right? It's like, well, most people interview people who are overweight, but these guys said, well, we want to find out what people who've never had a weight problem, how they think and how they make their food choices. And what they found was that one after the other, that they were thinking through their choices, meaning that people who struggle with their weight sometimes, they look at a menu and they think, well, this thing looks really good and it's going to taste really good, I want that. And if they're on a diet, they'll look at something healthy and they'll go, well, I want that thing, but I should have the salad. And sometimes they'll pick the salad because they're having a good day or they're being good. And sometimes they'll pick the bad thing because they're having a bad day and they want to reward themselves or something like that. But these people who'd never had a weight problem, they might arrive at the salad, but in a very different way. You see, they'd arrive at the healthier choice simply by thinking through how they were going to benefit from their particular choice or how they were going to suffer from it. Meaning, they'd look at the lasagna or the heavy thing and they'd go, well, that would taste really good. But maybe in a half an hour after I eat it, I'm going to feel sluggish. Maybe when I leave the restaurant, I'm going to wish I hadn't done that. You know, and if I continue to make that choice over time, I might gain weight, which might make me uncomfortable, hurt my self-confidence. I mean, if you just think about it down the road enough, then it ceases to become a really attractive choice. And so they would arrive at the healthy choice by thinking through the consequences. And for most people, the truth is that because we're creatures of habit, we never purposefully implement a strategy like that. What happens is that we just start eating in a certain way when we're younger, and that continues throughout the years. And over time, we wake up and we're 50, and we're still cleaning our plate because we started doing that when we were 8, and we're still eating the same types of foods, and we're still using food for emotional reasons, and all these things that started not purposefully, but just by happenstance, just because you saw someone else in your family eating in that way or dealing with food in that way. So with hypnosis, the strategy is really about helping you to think through in a logical, rational way what you're doing to yourself and how it's going to affect you, and to do that intuitively. So it's not a struggle and it's not like a laborious process every time. It's that you develop an automatic way of thinking, okay, how is this going to make me feel? How is it going to help me? What are going to be the benefits and consequences? And when you're doing that, you can make a really good choice, which is what I've learned to do, without feeling like you have to. You do it because you want to, and that makes all the difference.